Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The pandemic has resulted in lots of conversation around technology. And one of the things that we did at T4 was to focus on teacher technology, or how teachers incorporate technology into their classrooms. And it's a subject that a lot of people are talking about with regards to the efficiencies that can be brought, the personalization that can be had, and so on and so forth. So I thought it'd be useful to have a conversation with someone who was a teacher, who's gone on and created an education technology startup in an area that, as a result of his experience of being a teacher. And so I'd like to welcome my friend Adam still to this live stream. Adam is the CEO of and the founder of Pango Education. And what happens is that through what they have created, the hypothesis is that teachers will be more productive. Adam, welcome to this live stream.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. So, if I'm not mistaken, you're a maths teacher, if I'm not mistaken, right? Tell us about your experience as a teacher first.
That's correct. I was a teacher. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are in the world, and thanks for having me, Vikas. Great to speak to you on this great platform. You're right. I was a secondary school maths teacher, teaching 11 to 16-year-olds. It was a great experience for me. It was very hard to leave the classroom. I actually, as you know, went on to work in other areas of education and are now still in education, but more as a tech entrepreneur. But my experience of the classroom was a brilliant one, and the reason why I've gone on to do what I do now, which is to make a technology tool to try and help teachers with lesson planning, is because my own experience of lesson planning was that it is such a vitally important part of the quality of the lessons that teachers deliver every day, but it's actually quite a difficult, time-consuming process. And so I saw a lot of opportunity for software to help teachers through this process, in terms of keeping teachers organized, helping teachers collaborate with other colleagues teaching similar subjects, recommending you the right content at the right moment, year to year, building up your banks and your plans, bringing in best practice. There's so much opportunity for technology to help. But lesson planning itself is kind of seen as a bit of a pain, and bit of a thing that if I could do it more quickly in my evenings, that would be better for me. So really what we're trying to do with our product is, and I want to make this clear, we do not think lesson planning is a pain. Lesson planning is not something that we should play down in terms of its importance. The higher the quality of the planning, the higher the quality of the teaching, is basically our philosophy. But it doesn't need to be a really heavy task. It can be a light lift where we can use intelligent software to help us with that. So, and every teacher will, if they're being honest, I think, tell you that the lessons where you've put in hours of preparation and you've really thought through what you're going to do, you end up having great classes. The lessons where you've had to be a bit more rushed and you haven't had as much time to prepare, they end up not being as good. I remember one of my mentors at the time told me this great phrase, which is, I think, really underlines the importance of it, is that, and she used to say, never tell me that you can't teach because the behavior is not good enough. It's the other way around. Good teaching will create good behavior, not the other way around. And so in that, good teaching all stems from good planning and good preparation. So that's a bit about sort of the importance I saw of lesson planning from my own experience. But it's a task that you get better at, but still every year things change because the profile of the kids change. So you obviously have to adapt.
Tell me, Adam, that's really useful. I know that there's plenty of people watching from other parts of the world. If you could just put on comments, if you're watching this, how many hours do you spend on a weekly basis planning your lessons? I'd be interested in knowing. Now, Adam, when you speak about lesson planning, what you say to me sounds quite fundamental, which is, how do you plan a particular subject or a unit that you're trying to teach? talk us through your experience of how long it actually does take to do something well without which is your business.
Yeah, so it's a really important question, because workflow workload is such a hot topic, such a very important topic in education right now, in the context that I was teaching in the UK and around the world. So the national average in the UK is 2 hours per teacher per day. So, that may be, it boils down to 10 hours a week. Some people do it in bigger chunks. Some people do it in smaller bite-sized things every day. But on average, it comes down to 2 hours a day every day. To put that in a bit of context, teachers then also spend probably around, on average, 4 hours actually in a classroom in front of pupils teaching, and then probably another 2 hours after that lesson, marking, assessing the work that goes on. And the important part of that is that that should be a positive feedback loop, right? Where I plan a lesson, I then teach that lesson, I then assess what's going on from the pupil's progress perspective, and then I'm able to use that to inform the planning and what I'm going to do the following day. So that's how fundamental that 2 hours every day is to the progression that your kids make over the weeks and over the years. So it's not something where we should be saying, okay, it's wrongly sometimes referred to as admin time, because it's not teaching time, because it's not, me standing in front of the classroom. That's really downplaying its importance, and it's not something which we should try and eradicate completely. So some schools of thought, or some people think that, well, why can't I just use what was done last year, or why can't I just take an off-the-shelf lesson plan or something that a colleague used, and I don't need to plan this lesson, I can just use something that's been pre-prepared. Well, that's to not really respect what I just explained, which is that you should be planning your lessons reacting to your class's needs from the previous lesson, and what's normally referred to as personalizing the classes. So what we're trying to do with Pango is to say that process is a time-consuming one. It's a difficult one, because you're taking content from a very varied sources, trying to keep it structured, trying to keep it organized, trying to also talk to colleagues about how it's done, and bring things all together. And then next year, it's hard to refer back to what you had, because it's probably stored in lots of different places on lots of different devices. And in terms of media you're using, well, I'm writing plans as Word documents, but I'm also showing videos. I've got PDF files for worksheets and homework tasks. I've got my slides as PowerPoints. I've got all types of media. This will be familiar to teachers who do this every day. It's all over the place. I'm seeing some of the comments up here, of how much time it spends for teachers to do this. So it's a really important part of the teacher workflow. 3 to 4 hours I'm seeing here, and this is important here to point out that at the beginning of someone's career, it's likely longer because you're not very familiar with the processes. And then the other thing, which anecdotally teachers will confess to, but it's not it's not seen often in the stats, is that if you're being observed, for example, if someone's coming to watch your lesson, well, I mean, how many hours do people put into preparing for that single lesson? It's really high. It can be 2, 3, 4 hours for one lesson, if teachers are being honest, right? You can't do that for 5 lessons a day every day. So what you're saying is there has to be a balance, in effect, of how much time can I put in versus the quality that's going to come out. So it's really important that we're more efficient in this process to drive up the equality, so all of those lessons can be of the highest standard.
So in terms of the idea stems, as you've explained, from your own experience as a teacher. If I was watching this live stream and I was a teacher that wanted to experiment and trial, I mean, there's a bunch of free products out there today because of COVID that lots of people have put out. Mm-hmm. What distinguishes yours from everyone else?
It's a good question. So I'll go right top level. I have one different view of teaching to many of the products you'll see out there. And I'll make this maybe a bold distinction, that many products that I see are built for a world where kids are learning on screens. So they are built for a world, and they have a vision of the future where the pupil, the student, is sitting at a laptop or a tablet, and that is the medium of education they are receiving. I think that is a problem, and I don't think that is going to be the reality, and I don't think that is necessarily the right thing for pupils learning, even long term as technology gets better. So I've seen statistics recently that even in California, where broadband penetration is good, access to devices and tablets is good, infrastructure and hardware is good, teachers are doing a maximum of 20% of their lessons are these sort of what I call digital lessons, where pupils are interacting with devices. So if you're building for 20% of the lessons, what do you think is going on in the other 80% of the lessons? How are teachers to be supported in planning for group work lessons in the classroom, for practical lessons, all of the arts and the sciences where there's practical work going on? How are you to assist with learning through play? How do your lessons that are heavily based around debate and maybe social and emotional learning? All of these types of lessons are not traditionally done with one-to-one students on devices. So some of the products I see which talk a lot about lesson planning and helping with teachers structuring their lessons and so forth. Ultimately, they're built for a world where pupils will interact with that digital content, and they will interact with what the teacher has produced digitally. We're built for a world where you can do the digital part of it, but we really are focusing on the norm and the 80% of lessons which take place in a currently an offline world. And so what we do is we support the teacher with the preparation, with the structuring, with the planning, but then we don't necessarily say we are going to be the ones who are going to take you into the classroom and be the ones who support you in the classroom. So I talked a bit about that workflow: pre-classroom planning, in the classroom delivering, post-classroom assessing. We're very heavily focused on the pre-classroom part of the delivery chain.
So if I was a teacher, what could I do to use Pango?
So first of all, you can, I think the link, our URL is on the screen at the moment. So it's very simple to get started on Pango. We are free to use for teachers to get started. So you can head to our website, you can sign up for a free account. Then you'll see some videos and some tours to help you get started. It's very intuitive and very quick to do that. You can be on Pango within a minute or two. And then you'll see by watching the videos and reading the tutorials how you can structure all of your units or your blocks or your topics throughout the coming term, year, however far you want to go. You can build your lessons. And then the really powerful part is that you can get all of your content in one place. So you don't need to go after other sources. You don't need to have different Google Drives or USB sticks, all this sort of additional management that teachers need to do to store their media. You can keep it all in Pango, and you can really, really easily collaborate with your colleagues. So, if I decide I like Pango and I start making a lesson, I start organizing myself, and perhaps Vikas, you're my colleague who teaches, maths in the classroom next to me, I can invite you in a second, and then we can start collaborating. And we don't need to be in the same school. You can be on your tablet in your house. I can be on my laptop in my house. We can be on our phones. We can be any device, and we can start collaborating easily with each other. But it's very easy to get started and very intuitive to set yourself up.
So I know that there's a bunch of teachers from, like I've said in the comments over here, from Nigeria, from Philippines, from Serbia, from Turkey, from Morocco. And the question is, can you collaborate across countries with teachers not from your school system on subjects, or is it just generally as building a community? How does it work?
So there is a huge ability to collaborate across countries, across subjects, across all types of things. So one of the sort of problems that I see with our sector generally in content is that there is a vast volume of great content out there, but it's not that easy to find always. And it's often organized for a particular country, which makes it difficult to find if you're in a different country, although it might be appropriate. So for example, there's a wealth of good content which comes out of, say, the US or any country, but let's just take the US as an example. and it is there and targeted and marketed to American teachers, but adding fractions in the US, long multiplication in the US, is the same world over. So there's no reason why that content can't be used in, as you say, for example, Nigeria or the UK or wherever else in the world we are. So what we're doing with Pango is saying we need to just understand really at its core, what is that content and what other context can we use it in? And for example, all of the countries from where people are watching today, so that's appropriate. So you can collaborate in terms of content like that, but also community is important. So and the way we build communities at the moment is within your schools. So we start with a small community, and then you can expand that. So it tends to be the case that teachers immediately will be working with their departments or their year groups or whatever. Whether you're in a lower down the education system, you tend to collaborate by age, and more senior, you tend to collaborate by subject. So those are people's more immediate communities. Then it spreads to schools, and then it can spread to districts and so forth. And there is the ability to share, totally openly with everyone on Pango.
Adam, I'm a little bit. I ask you a very basic question. This is such a common sense thing to do. Why is it happening?
Good question. I think there are some examples of great communities for teachers online, and there are resource banks. So in the US, the big one is Teachers Pay Teachers. In the UK, the TES is a big resource bank like this. But I think that it's almost like they have started, but there's normally in technology a version 1 which comes first, is maybe the initiator of a particular idea. But as things progress, there are follow-on products which manage to hone into the real need and the real core. So I think if you want to, I like to make comparisons with other technology products and other sectors. This is being broadcast on Facebook. Facebook was not the first social media platform. There were many more social media platforms that came before Facebook and were to an extent successful at building community. But Facebook came on and took things a level further. So to answer your question, why hasn't it done before? We're not claiming to have come up with the idea of building community amongst educators and sharing content, but we're doing it in a different way to, I think, the way it's been done before.
And you talk about leveraging technology. What have you seen during the pandemic?
Sorry, I didn't catch that question.
What have you seen about the use of technology during the pandemic?
Yeah, so I think talking about education during the pandemic is a massive and very interesting conversation. I think that it's been very mixed, and one thing that I think has been an eye-opener, I think, to some people is how the teacher is still instrumental in the pandemic, even when the pupil is not present in the classroom. So what you've seen, and parents who've gone through this now will have experienced this, is not, okay, my child is at home, my child is on a laptop, they log into a website and they're following the computer, they're following the algorithm, they're following what tends to be called, adaptive, intelligent, artificial intelligence learning platform, and effectively the computer's teaching my child. We are there's so much call and so much demand for teachers to still be curating that content and teachers to still be providing that learning material to students. So to back to your question on, how has technology helped? Technology has actually helped, I think, as a delivery mechanism and as a distribution channel, but it's not been as pervasive in terms of actually teaching pupils directly, I would observe. I think it's also important to sort of take a step back and think about, how much of it is desirable for technology to have taken on in this role, and how much could it have taken on. So, as I said earlier, in schools, even in some of the most developed parts of the world, I'm talking about California, as advanced as far as technology goes, probably as anywhere. In schools, 20% of lessons are delivered using digital media and their digital first lessons. So in the pandemic, what you've seen is people try and do 100% of the lessons using digital media. and that has naturally caused a problem, and that naturally means that it's harder to do things like have group discussions. It's harder to learn through play. It's harder to use all these different types of pedagogies and techniques that the good teachers will do every day. So we've seen it evolve. I think we'll see it carry on evolving. I think maybe some of the lessons that teachers have learned in the last 3 or 4 months will creep into the way they do things from September or whenever we end up going back to school in a more normal way. We don't know when that'll be, and obviously that'll be different country to country. So yeah, it's been I'd say a real acid test for lots of products as to whether you're useful or not. And yeah, I think it's been mixed.
So in terms of, there's been quite a lot of comments on here. One of them was from this lady called Parbinder Kaur, who I assume is in India, saying similar questions run through her mind regarding the effectiveness in using technology to ensuring maximum learning in place. You've got other people. So there's a Arabic speaker that speaks about, is this flexible? So can we adjust it to our standardized planning forms? These are technical questions regarding Pango. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah. So let me just I'm just reading them now myself. To the easiest answer to the last one about flexible planning, totally flexible. So we do not see it as our job as effectively the makers of a piece of software to be telling teachers how you should plan your lessons for your context and your classes. I mean, we firmly believe that you as a teacher are best placed to know what to do for your classes in your context. So Pango is totally flexible for you to take a standardized plan, if that's where you're starting from, and edit it, tweak it, update it, incorporate stuff from anywhere else. So you can start. So if in your context, if you are given standardized plans, maybe by your school or by your government or whoever, or by a publisher, wherever it comes from, they can be shared at the high level, but then they can be tweaked by the individual, which I think is the right way of doing things. The other question was about the effectiveness in using technology to ensure maximum learning. Yeah, so there's I think what we have to get to in ed tech more generally is understanding where exactly technology can help and should help, as opposed to just thinking technology can help with everything. Like we've seen in other walks of life, technology can help with everything. Where I tend to see the industry quite differently, I think, to lots of people is you tend to see our industry broken down into product categories. So the normal words are LMS, learning management system, adaptive management system, personalized management system, quiz bank, this sort of stuff. And as I sort of talked about earlier, I see the world of education as a workflow and as a process of how teachers teach and how kids learn, which is more generally in schools normally referred to as teaching and learning. And so I think we need to, and this is the responsibility of both educators and technologists, to sort of mold these worlds together and come away from this idea that we should be starting from a database structure and let's see how that applies to the classroom. And we should probably start from a more, what is the thing teachers actually need to be helped with in this 2 hours of their day? What is it that they need help with during this 10-minute section? Rather than say, I've got something that can help with this, and why don't you now use my technology to help you do it your way? So I think we're evolving over time, and we will get there in our sector.
So in terms of where I see what I've heard from you, Adam, is you saw a problem as a teacher to do with the amount of hours you were spending with lesson planning. You created Pango to address that in particular, so that you get not just you become more productive as a teacher in terms of time efficient, but you also get the ability to collaborate outside of your four walls with other teachers potentially around the world to make sure that your lesson plans are stronger and more effective.
Exactly.
Is that basically the proposition?
That's basically the proposition. That's right. And some of the most pleasing feedback we get is from teachers and senior teachers who say, we started using your product in order to keep us organized and in order to collaborate more effectively. But actually, what we think we've seen as a result is higher quality outcomes in terms of our lessons. So that is the most pleasing compliment or piece of feedback I think we can receive, that not only are we doing what we set out to do as a piece of software and helping teachers save time, but we're actually having an impact in the classroom in terms of the quality of the lessons. So it's an efficiency in terms of reducing teacher time, but also improving the standard and the quality. And that I think is where technology generally can have impact in so many different contexts around the world.
Adam, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. As I've said on that comment over there, I think it's phenomenal when a teacher steps forward, sees a problem, goes to fix it using technology and apply teacher common sense, as I call it, to that problem, solving a real issue for teachers. So many congratulations, and I wish you all the very best. What is it that teachers who are watching this can do to avail of the free product or the paid product that you have? Just if you can quickly just tell us.
Just head to our website. You can see the link on the screen below and dive in straight away. It will take you less than a minute to get up and running. If you have any questions, there's a feature in there you can ask us directly and we will help you straight away.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure, Vikas. Thank you for speaking with me today.